If you're thinking about building a community, one of the most important decisions that you'll make is what actually goes inside of it. Because here's the thing, most communities, they fail not because they don't have enough content, but because they have too much of the wrong content. When you turn your community into a content library, engagement drops and navigation becomes impossible and people will stop showing up. Today, I want to show you the biggest mistakes that I have seen kill community engagement and what actually belongs in your community and how to make that decision based on your community's purpose. Let's get into it. Let me start by showing you some of the biggest mistakes that I have seen people make with their community content. And more importantly, what happened because of those mistakes. The first mistake is uploading full training content into the community. I worked with someone who had a photography course and she took all her training videos and posted them in the community. Lighting tutorials, editing walkthroughs, composition lessons, all of it. She thought that she was adding value. But what actually happened is that the members, they logged in and they watched the videos, but then they left. There was zero conversation, zero interaction. The community had 200 plus members and maybe 5 posts total. And when she asked why no one was engaging, the answer was actually quite simple. They didn't know that they were supposed to. They thought the community was just another place to watch videos, so they watched and disappeared. That community, it felt dead, and that's because she used the community like a course and not an actual community. The second mistake is turning that community into a file storage system. I saw a business coach do this. She created folders for everything, templates, worksheets, checklists, scripts, swipe files. She probably had 100 resources organized into categories. It looked pretty impressive, but here's what actually happened. That people joined, they downloaded all the things that they needed, and then they left. The community had no conversation, no questions, no big wins being shared, and people just popped in, grabbed the files, and then they left. She actually spent hours organizing these resources that nobody talked about, and the community, it became kind of a glorified Dropbox folder and not an actual gathering space. The third mistake that I see is people posting the same content in multiple places. I watched somebody post their course welcome video in the community, and then post their weekly training in the community, and then post their resource library in the community. Everything that was already in their course was also in the community. Of course, what happened? Members got confused. They didn't know where to go for what, right? Some watched the training in the course, and then some watched it in the community, but nobody knew which space they were supposed to be using. And because the community didn't offer anything unique to it, it felt really optional, like unnecessary. So people just stopped checking it. So those are 3 big mistakes, and here's what they all have in common. They treat the community like a content delivery system instead of a conversation space. And when you do that, you kill engagement because people don't come to communities to consume more content. They come to connect, to be seen, to belong. So let's talk about what actually belongs in a community. Communities, they actually work best when they focus on a conversation, connection, and shared experience. So the content that belongs in your community is content that invites interaction. So let me give you a couple of examples, okay? The first thing that belongs is a welcome post that invites people to introduce themselves and engage, right? For example, you could put a post, something that's like, welcome, this community is where you can ask questions, share your progress, and connect with others on the same journey. Start by introducing yourself below. Tell us your name and what you're currently working on. This isn't information for them to consume. It's an invitation to participate, okay? You can do things like announcements and updates. You can just tell them what's happening in your world. So for example, you could say our next live Q&A is Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern. Drop your questions below and I'll answer them on the call. Okay, again, keeping people informed, and it gives them a reason to engage and engage in that post specifically by submitting questions. Now, the third thing that belongs in your post is have them spark a conversation. So you can ask things like, what's one thing you accomplished this week that you're proud of, right? Or what's your biggest challenge right now? Okay, these prompts, they give people a reason to show up. They get to share their experience and they connect with others who are in the same boat. And let's be real, most people like to talk about themselves. So those posts are usually one of the best for engagements. Now, the fourth thing that belongs in this space is for your members to ask questions and help each other out. So, for example, someone might post, I'm stuck on my payment process, or has anyone else figured this out? And other members will jump in and share their experiences. And this creates a peer-to-peer support. It's incredibly valuable and it takes the pressure off you. And the fifth thing that belongs in your post is where people celebrate wins and share their progress. For example, you could have posts like, I just launched my first product and I can't believe I made my first sale. I can't believe it's real, right? Those are the best posts. So encouraging your members to post those is so important. They create momentum. They create inspiration. Okay. They create a sense of a shared journey. Now you might be wondering, okay, but what about my training content? What about my resources? Where do they go? Well, if you have full training videos or step-by-step lessons, those belong in your course. That's what courses are designed for, structured learning with a clear progression, right? Kajabi allows you to have your courses in a separate product than the community. That's intentional. If you have things like templates or workbooks or downloadable resources, they belong in a resource section of your course or of your membership, not in the community. Yes, you can link to them so they link away, that's fine, but don't put the actual thing in the community. If you have reference materials that people need to access, again, put them in your course materials and just link them in the community. Just remember that the community is not where you store information. It's where you create conversation around that information. All right. So let's say that you teach people how to create Instagram content. The training on the content strategy, caption writing, and hashtags research, that's in your course. But in the community, you're going to post things like, who's creating content this week? Drop your latest post below and let's give each other feedback. Do you see that there's a difference here? The course teaches, the community connects people around what they're learning. Now, here's how you make every content decision easy. Use your community's purpose as a filter. In my last video, we defined our community's purpose. That purpose tells you exactly what belongs and what doesn't. Okay, let me show you how this works. Let's say your community exists to provide ongoing support for your members. What belongs is members' questions, troubleshooting threads, Q&A posts, spaces where people can ask for help and get answers. And what doesn't belong is full resource training videos, resource libraries, passive content that doesn't invite questions or interaction. Now, if your community exists to create accountability, you might put things in like daily check-ins, progress tracking threads, goal setting posts, celebration of completed things. What you don't want to be putting in there is long form lessons, downloadable resources, content that doesn't require people to report on their progress. Now, if your community has a focus of fostering connection and belonging, you're going to want to make sure you have member introductions, conversation prompts about a shared experience, and posts that encourage people to interact with each other. What you don't want to be putting in there is one-way content, again, like training videos or resource dumps that don't create an opportunity for members to connect. Now, if your community exists to help people and integrate what they're learning, reflection prompts are really good. Application exercises and feedback threads. These are spaces where people can share how they're implementing what you teach them. Okay, what doesn't belong in this community is the actual teaching content again. Keep that in the course and just keep the community for conversations about the process and how to apply it. So now here's the filter that I want you to use for every piece of content you're considering to put in your community. Ask yourself, does this invite interaction? Or is it meant to be consumed alone? If it invites interaction, if it creates conversation, connection, or engagement, it belongs in the community. If it's meant to be consumed alone, if people will watch it, read it, download it, and move on without engaging, then that belongs in your course or resource library. That's your filter. Use it every single time. Now, I want to emphasize this one more time. Less content creates more participation. Okay, when your community is simple and focused, people know what to do. They know why they're there. They will engage. Okay, but when your community is packed with trainings, resources, and files, it becomes overwhelming. People don't know where to start. They feel behind, and instead of engaging, they just avoid it. Okay, so give yourself permission to keep the community simple. You don't need to post every day. You don't need elaborate content, and you don't need to fill every single space. What you do need is clarity about what belongs and what doesn't. And now you have that. If you want to learn more about online communities, check out the next video on your screen. And if you want to see a real Kajabi community in action for free, come join us in the Unstuck Me Club community. The link for that is in the description, and we hope to see you there.